There's a certain peace that comes with living in a quiet neighborhood, neat lawns, trimmed hedges, friendly hellos in the morning. But beneath all that perfection hides control, rules, power, and sometimes heartbreak. From my porch, I'd watched Emily and Jake move into the house next door just 2 years ago. A young couple, full of life, full of hope. They spent months turning that dull gray house into something warm and beautiful. And when Jake finally got down on one knee under that old oak tree in their backyard, the whole street clapped. It was like love had spilled into every corner of the block. But around here, love has to follow the rules. Because our HOA doesn't believe in freedom, only control. Mrs. Carter, the HOA president, didn't smile much. She was the kind of woman who believed her clipboard held more power than the Constitution itself. Every flower, every fence height, every shade of mailbox paint went through her. And when Emily sent out invites for her backyard wedding, Mrs. Carter's eyes narrowed like she'd smelled rebellion. Started small. Letters in their mailbox. Unauthorized event. Violation of Community Policy 7A. Noise restrictions must be observed. But soon, the letters turned into threats, fines for excessive gatherings, warnings about permit requirements. Emily tried to reason with her. Jake even offered to pay a small fee for temporary event use. But Mrs. Carter wasn't after money. She was after control. I remember hearing her one afternoon, standing on Emily's porch, voice sharp as glass. She said, "You think you can turn this neighborhood into some kind of circus? Not on my watch." After that, things changed. Decorations that had been lovingly strung up went missing overnight. A delivery truck carrying wedding chairs was mysteriously redirected. And a notice went out to all residents. Parking prohibited on Oak Ridge Lane during unauthorized gatherings. I'd never seen a woman so determined to destroy happiness. The day before the wedding, the backyard looked magical. Fairy lights twinkling in the dusk. Tables set for family. The old oak tree glowing under the sunset. But that night, everything went dark. Literally. The HOA had sent inspectors claiming there were electrical hazards. They cut the power. Every light flickered out. The decorations went limp. And when Emily called the county office, they said they'd received multiple HOA safety complaints. I watched from my window as the couple stood there, surrounded by silence. The wedding they'd planned for a year, gone in a single stroke of spite. Jake kicked the dirt, furious. Emily just sat down in her gown, tears streaming down her face. She whispered something I could barely hear. It was just one word. Why? I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing. Something had broken inside Jake that night. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of rain. The wedding was canceled. The guests stayed home. The yard was a mess. Soaked decorations, trampled petals, and that cursed HOA violation sign nailed to their fence. Mrs. Carter drove by around noon, her little dog in her lap, smirking at the wreckage like she'd won a war. But what she didn't know was that Jake had started his own. He wasn't the type to yell or threaten. He was quieter, smarter. That evening, I saw him sitting on his laptop for hours, typing, printing, highlighting papers. Days turned into weeks. I thought maybe they'd moved on. But one night, Jake knocked on my door. His eyes were steady, calm, but burning with something cold. He said, "You've seen everything, right?" I nodded. Then he said, "Good, because I'm done letting her win." That's when he showed me the documents. What Jake had uncovered was more than just pettiness. It was corruption. While Mrs. Carter was busy enforcing community policies, she was also quietly funneling HOA funds into personal accounts. Fake invoices, inflated maintenance fees, ghost cleaning companies. Jake had spent weeks digging through the HOA's public filings, cross-checking payments, even talking to old board members. And he'd found everything. I remember sitting in my kitchen, papers spread out across the table. Proof that Mrs. Carter had been stealing from her own neighbors for years. Jake smiled for the first time in months. "This isn't just revenge," he said. "It's justice." The next week, he and Emily mailed every document to the county's housing department, the local news station, And, just for good measure, every single homeowner in the neighborhood. The morning those envelopes hit the mailboxes, chaos erupted. Phones rang nonstop. Neighbors gathered in driveways, whispering, pointing at Mrs. Carter's house. By noon, the HOA board had called an emergency meeting. By evening, Mrs. Carter's face was on the local news, HOA president accused of embezzlement and harassment. She tried to deny it, of course. She said it was all personal attacks and fabricated lies. But the evidence spoke louder. Bank records, signed receipts, her own name on every check. Within a week, she was forced to resign. 2 weeks later, she was under investigation. And just like that, the woman who had ruined so many lives, who had taken so much joy and power, lost it all. Months passed. The neighborhood started to feel lighter. People smiled again. The rules got looser. The new HOA president even apologized publicly to Emily and Jake. And one sunny afternoon, I woke up to the sound of music. I looked out my window, and there it was. The backyard wedding that never happened, finally happening. Same oak tree, same fairy lights. Only this time the whole neighborhood showed up. Kids running around, laughter echoing, plates clinking. Emily in her dress, glowing. Jake holding her hand, smiling like the world had finally righted itself. Even I felt my throat tighten when they said their vows. They didn't just defeat an HOA. They defeated fear. And as the sun dipped low behind the trees, I noticed something poetic. That old HOA notice sign was still nailed to their fence. Only now, someone had spray painted over it. One simple word. Freedom. That night, I sat on my porch watching the string lights flicker in the breeze, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. And I realized something. In neighborhoods like ours, rules can be rewritten, but hearts always find a way to fight back. If you ever had a neighbor like Mrs. Carter, you know exactly how it feels to want justice. Hit that like button if you've ever dealt with HOA drama and subscribe, 'cause next time we're diving into a story where revenge comes with a legal badge.